History and self-improvement is like bread and butter. It just goes together. This is why I think that if you're on a self-improvement journey, you got to study people that did great things in the past. For example, if you have a certain boxer you look up to, a certain general, politician, maybe someone who invented something, we all have that historical figure that we look up to. And the great thing about researching history and their biography is that you can open a book and you can see someone's entire life's mistakes, triumphs, achievements, what they did, what was their breakthroughs, what was like their lowest point. And it's just crazy how someone's entire life, you could just, in a matter of hours or even faster than that, just go through their entire existence. And the reason I say on self-improvement, reading history or reading about past figures or biographies is that you can learn from their mistakes, from their victories. One of my favorite historical figures, for example, has to be Julius Caesar. I really like Julius Caesar, and his book series, The Gallic Wars, are a very, very interesting account of his campaigns in Gaul, right? So Caesar, he had, established himself as a force to be reckoned with, and he became the governor of Cisalpine Gaul. Now, Cisalpine Gaul is in northern Italy, right? It's northern Italy. It's still part of Italy today, but Gaul is modern-day France, essentially. So he's the governor of Cisalpine Gaul, and by Roman law, he's not supposed to cross into He's not supposed to cross into Gaul. He's just supposed to be there, running day-to-day activities, not really starting any wars. And it was actually illegal for these Roman governors to go off on their own and do that. So I believe a Germanic tribe was raiding into the northern part on the frontier of Gaul. And I believe there was some allied tribes. And these Gauls, they were the Celts. They were a Celtic people. They spoke a language, or they spoke a group of languages called Gaulish, which is now an extinct language. There's a lot of actually Gaulish words still used in French today because, it was in France. So, yeah, these Celtic tribes, around this time, they kept having trouble with Germanic invaders. This was like a common theme throughout the Gallic Wars. These German tribes kept pushing their way across the Rhine, and they were just migrating. During this time in history, there was just entire groups of people migrating, and they would end up, completely ransacking their way through, pillaging. They were very, very warlike people. So I believe something happened where, I don't know the specifics. I'll come back. Dude. I'll come back and make another video specifically about it. But yeah, Caesar basically intervened. He used like some BS excuse that he had to cross. There was a tribe moving through the area. I can't remember the name of the tribe, but he basically just stepped in. This other tribe, this Gallic tribe, said, oh, hey, Caesar, there's this tribe just moving through these Germans. You need to stop them. And so he intervened. He actually went and blocked their path. And he kept blocking them. And that Germanic tribe was just trying to say, like, hey, look, we burnt all of our belongings. We burnt all of our shit back home. They basically, left their entire life behind, everything. I believe there was almost, 200,000 to 300,000 people on the march. This is like not just the soldiers, this is like the men, the women, the old people, the kids. So they just packed up and went into Gaul, marauding. Caesar says, no, you have to turn around. And, well, it led to a few battles where, they kept getting picked off. And it's crazy because there was something described. The Romans were scared of these German fighters because those German fighters were like apparently much bigger. They were described as blonde, higher stature, just bigger humans. And the Romans, by comparison, were a lot shorter, smaller, more petite. And they were afraid of these Germans. But Caesar was able to convince his men and actually, tell them like, hey, don't. He noticed that like they were nervous and he was like, y'all have nothing to worry about. He had convinced them that, that they're going to basically crush these motherfuckers, which they did. They crushed these dudes. And I think he just rallied them. He was just a very, look, I'm not giving you all the nuances and I'm giving you kind of a shitty, version of like the story. But essentially, I like Caesar because he went through a lot of challenges and he did things that were risky. And I can see like his victories and I can read them and I can apply that to my life. And so that's why you can start reading history and you'll find people that you just agree with, One person, that I really like would be Emperor Justinian of the Byzantines. If you haven't noticed, I'm into Roman history, but yeah, that whole period, the classical world is just really interesting. A lot of great stories. Plutarch's Lives. If you ever get a chance, listen to the Cost of Glory podcast. It's a podcast about how you can use historical stuff to apply to your self-improvement journey. So what I'm talking about. So listen to the Cost of Glory podcast. He has a bunch of episodes on Plutarch's Lives. Plutarch's Lives is a book, or it's a biography about great men, essentially. Like Caesar's in there. There's a lot of Greek heroes. Agesilaus, which is a Spartan king. He has a really interesting story. There's oh my God, there's just so many, I can't remember off the top of my head. I'm tired, but Plutarch's Lives, check it out. Yeah, Agesilaus, he's a badass. Oh, Lysander. If you've never heard of this guy, search up Lysander. Oh, and also read about Pompey. I don't know, there's all the people in Plutarch's Lives are interesting people. All right. Like, search up these interesting men, these great men, and see what they did, see how they spent their life, and you'll notice one thing: they don't waste their lives. They push everything to the limits. All right, peace.